Okay, today I'm going to give my prediction for the Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker heavyweight title fight on the undercard of Bivol versus Beterbiev number 2. Now, before I give my prediction on this fight, I want to talk about the undercard. Now, this is a very stacked undercard. Probably one of the best cards I've seen in a long time. It's nothing new for Riyadh season, Saudi Arabia. Turkey Al Sheikh, he's putting on some crazy cards, so he must have endless money because some of these fights are headliners. I'm not going to talk about every fight that's on the undercard. I think there's some fights that are just, there's no need to predict. Shakur Stevenson is one of these fights. I think that he's going to win pretty easy. He's not really too much of an exciting fighter. I can talk more about him in the future, when he steps up his competition. I don't know too much about Floyd Schofield, but I expect him to win pretty easy. The two main fights on the card, apart from Beterbiev Bivol, apart from Parker Dubois, that I want to talk about and I'm very interested in seeing, is Zhang versus Ajit Cabel and Israel Madrimov versus Virgil Ortiz. Now, I'm going to talk about Madrimov versus Ortiz first. Israel is coming off the fight against Terence Crawford. Everyone's talking high about him. I don't know if he's favored in this fight against Ortiz, but I think that a lot of people are picking him in this fight. Terence Crawford is obviously the pound for pound king. He's obviously, to me, one of the three best fighters in the world right now. Alongside Usyk and Inoue, I have Terence Crawford right there. And Madrimov definitely won rounds against Crawford. But to me, he played a very defensive fight. He's a smart fighter. He's a good fighter. He doesn't really have too many pro fights, but he has a deep amateur background. To me, he didn't really take too many chances against Crawford. He did good because he won some rounds. He didn't get stopped. He didn't really get hurt too much in that fight. But one thing I wanted to see more against Crawford was him pressing the attack, especially being the bigger fighter. I expected him to press Crawford, throw his hands a lot more, and he didn't do that. Virgil Ortiz, on the other hand, is a guy that throws a lot of punches, is a guy that presses the attack. I feel like his last fight was a bit underwhelming. So this is a chance for both fighters really to prove themselves, one of the best in the division. Both guys have pros and cons. I think that Madrimov is going to box a smarter fight. I think the best chance Ortiz has is to press the attack and throw a lot of punches and bunches. And for me, I'm going to pick Virgil Ortiz in this fight. I just think that if he comes, he presses the attack. Madrimov has good defense. He has good movement in the ring. I just think that Ortiz is hungry, and I think he's going to get the victory. Very close fight, though. I probably wouldn't recommend betting on that one. But yeah, that's my pick. Now, the heavyweight fight between Zhang and Cabel. Cabel, he impressed me in his last fight. He won a fight against a guy who I rated highly in Frank Sanchez. I think that Sanchez might have been injured in that fight, but Cabell, he got the job done. He's been winning. He's one of the best rising guys in the sport. And if he beats Zhang, then he's going to put himself in position to be one of the best heavyweights in the world, beating another elite guy. Because one thing about Zhang is he doesn't have the highest work rate, but he has a high boxing IQ and he can punch. And he might not have the stamina to last 12 rounds, to throw hard punches for 12 rounds. He's definitely not active, but he definitely hits the target a few times in the fight, especially in the early half. So he will test Cabel's chin. He has a very quick, straight left hand. So I think that he will touch Cabel, but if Cabel gets through the first 6 rounds, I tip him to win that fight on decision. Now, the main heavyweight fight of the night, Dubois vs. Parker. So I've talked about this fight briefly before. I previewed the fight. And, both guys, like I said before, are in a similar position. Joseph Parker, he looks super motivated. He looks happy. He seems like he's probably in the best place in his career, mentally. But I just think that physically, he doesn't have the same punch resistance as he used to. When Joseph Parker was fighting AJ, he was promoted as a guy with an iron chin. And since then, He lost that fight, but since then he's been through wars and he's been tested. You know, when he fought Joyce, that was, I believe, his last test, and he got stopped in that fight. In the build up to this fight, he's saying that he's a different fighter, but I don't think he's fought a guy that's very active since him. You know, Wilder and Zhang are both killer punchers, but they're very inactive in the ring. They have a very low work rate. You know, they probably have the lowest work rate in heavyweight boxing. A few punches around. Of course, if they hit you, they're going to get you out of there. But Joseph Parker, he has good movement, and he outboxed both of them. He outworked them for a victory. But the thing is with Dubois, I think that he's very confident. When the fight first got announced, I think he was super overconfident. You know, I think he was still riding the win of AJ. But I think when the fight it gets closer and closer, I think that Dubois he's just gonna be too much for Parker. I don't know if Parker's punch resistance is there, and I think that Dubois he can punch for 12 rounds. His main weakness is when he gets frustrated. He might not be the strongest mentally, but Parker he hasn't got the greatest defense. Dubois' two losses where people say he quit. He was frustrated. He couldn't really do anything. He didn't really land any punches against Joyce. Joyce stabilized him with the jab, and Dubois really couldn't land any punches. He couldn't hurt him. And with Usyk, he couldn't land any punches except for the body shot, which, you know, if it was legit, I think they should have a rematch. Apart from that, he pretty much stopped. You know, he took a knee and then he stopped fighting in that fight. But he's a fighter, again, like Parker, who he's had comeback wins against, and he was the underdog in all of those wins. You know, I just think he's too strong. I've been seeing some of his training videos, and the guy is a real athlete. You know, physically, he's elite. He might not be the best mentally, but physically, I think he's going to be too much for Parker. He's going to hurt him, I believe. One thing with Dubois is he has a lot of stamina. He has stamina. You know, AJ, that's one of his flaws. He's a big, strong guy too, but he doesn't have stamina. I don't think Dubois is going to get tired. I think he's going to throw punches from round 1 to round 12. And Parker, like I said, he hasn't got the best defense. I think he's going to get hurt and possibly stopped mid to late rounds. So there's my prediction. Dubois, Parker, the undercard. It's going to be a crazy card. It's going to be one of the best cards of the year. Looking forward to it.